Hey everybody, so today I'd like to talk about something important to me that I've been studying in religion, and that's the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Uh, the foundation of the divine masculine and the divine feminine can be rooted back to Hinduism with Shiva and Shakti. How Shakti is the life force, the breath, the energy that gives all life and energy to all of life and created all the universe. And how in Shiva uh, embodied Shakti within himself, but essentially Shakti is what gave him his life. Shakti is the feminine, it is the goddess, it is Lakshmi and um, Kali and Parvati and all the feminine goddesses embody that Shakti energy. And um, I think that in some ways they're connected to nature, to water, to air, to the earth, to Mother Earth. And I've been able to connect with Shakti in that regard in my meditations, realize it's a very powerful cosmic creative force, and how it's permeated all of the world religions in my mind's eye. Um, you know, you see the divine feminine and Mary Magdalene. You see the divine masculine and uh, the Christ, Jesus, and it parallels even things that you see in nature. The divine masculine would probably be seen as solar energy, the light, and the Shakti is, it's everything. It's the breath, it's the life force, the divine goddess, and um, I find that it really gives you a lot of energy and a lot of passion. Uh, it's very powerful, and the divine masculine cannot be without the divine feminine. Um, they work, co-create, and ultimately, I'd probably say the divine feminine is the primordial source of all creation, um, and that along the way, um, the divine masculine was able to connect with that and tap into that, but they work co-equally with each other. And I see that sometimes in this world we're so polarized between the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and I think it's important that one becomes aware of both. And I think that it's missing in humanity because um, we just think that we're these small human beings, but we as human beings are a microcosm of the universe. And for me, while I think that I have some dark masculine attributes, I think I'm always drawn to the sun because the sun brings light. The sun sheds light on all the dark areas in our lives that we're not ready to quite see. And what I love about the sun is that it's illuminating. It brings light, it brings growth, um, it brings energy. And, I feel like in some ways, men are not embodying that solar energy. They've gone into dark areas in their life, and every man has to at some point, but this is where I think that for me alchemy comes into place, because alchemy is a marriage between the sun and the moon, the sun god and the mother goddess. And I think that the two are essentially what embody the human experience. The moon is about cycles. It's about time. It's about creation. And the sun is about light and illumination. And I think that one has to alchemize and bring union to the two, because I see that there's a lot of polarization between, some of the male and female gender attributes of people. And I think we need to get back to a way of understanding that there is a divine masculine and a divine feminine within each person. And it's a matter of alchemizing, transmuting the two in a way, a higher gamos of meditation, to bring both Shiva and Shakti into one union. And you see this in the old traditions. You see this with Osiris and the goddess Isis from Egypt, when Isis resurrected her husband through her son Horus, the sun god. There's this parallel between this cosmic creation and death, and how they're interrelated. How in some ways fertility, the underworld, all those things are connected. And it's the esoteric secrets of understanding that life is a cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And in some ways, the woman embodies all those things. The divine goddess embodies all those things. It's life, death, and rebirth. It's the process of regeneration. It's the process of, Osiris being resurrected. Or if it's not in Egypt, you see the parallel with Jesus and Mary Magdalene, when Mary Magdalene witnessed Jesus resurrected in the garden. It's all essentially about renewal and rebirth. Even Jesus was considered the new Adam. So ultimately, it's about a journey of creation, fertility, death, and then returning to the garden. I see it in some ways through meditating that the divine play, Leela, seems to play out in people's lives, and they don't realize it. People are still in this dance of, trying to figure out where their place is with the divine, whether it's the temptations that were in the Garden of Eden, or ultimately realizing that when one understands their unity with God source consciousness, that one can come to realize that the tree of life is the divine soul. The tree of life is the divine soul that is the embodiment of the divine soul. It's the world soul. And it's within each of us, but not too many people are aware of it. And I think that it's important to remember that all these stories whether Bible or Hinduism or Buddhism, they're all connected, you know. And I been doing a lot of studying with Hinduism when it comes down to samsara, breaking the cycle of um, the constant uh, life, death, and rebirth, and trying to reach that state of samadhi. And you can't really reach the state of samadhi without Shakti. Once you're in tune with Shakti, you can enter samadhi state, and it's a very peaceful state. It's a very blissful state. I'm not sure if it's a permanent state, but it's a state that one can achieve at any given time during concentration. And it's almost like it's such a blissful state that I feel like it's a state that can be transmuted into this reality, one of bliss and emptiness. And people in the West would probably be kind of curious about what emptiness is. Emptiness isn't really emptiness. It's expansion. It's feeling connected with the source of God and consciousness, and one can reach that state in samadhi. And I've experienced it. Things are a lot more calmer and blissful. Neighborhoods are more quiet. The world's more quiet. It's only when you break out of that cycle of meditation that things get back to normal and people are going about their regular lives. But it can be achieved. But I believe it's so important to embody the divine masculine, to embody the divine feminine, and to alchemize and bring union to the two. And I think ultimately that is what my faith-based community is going to be. I've decided I transitioned from essentially the triple goddess, which I think is still relevant. The triple goddess is a relevant attribute to mythology. But I think probably the ultimate alchemy between the divine feminine and the divine masculine is Hieros Gamos, is an alchemy between the father of light, the sun, and the moon goddess. And bringing those two together, because there's so much polarization. But these are kind of old ways of thinking. This isn't necessarily something that is it's an old tradition. It's a very ancient tradition, Hierogamos, that people are not quite familiar with. It was talked about by, I think, Carl Jung, and but it's that unity of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. The divine masculine embodies the sun, the divine feminine embodies the moon. Of course, in Nordic tradition, it's brother and sister. It's the sun is the goddess, and so I guess it's interesting to see how each culture interprets the world through nature, but it's a matter of understanding and holding value to these cycles that we have in our lives, these seasons, whether it's spring or fall, being able to understand that the human being is a microcosmos of the divine, that in each of us is a universe, that in each of us we carry at our heart the sun. The heart is the sun. And I think that it's a powerful reminder of our creative force when we know that the heart is the sun, that we can radiate light and illumination to people. But one can't be without the other, you know. The moon aspect is just as important. The light of the moon, the crescent moon, the Bindu, being able to reunite Shiva and Shakti in the crown chakra, is important. But it's important by being able to alchemize and transmute one's sexual energy into a more divine, creative energy that's able to bring illumination and awakening into one's soul. But the divine feminine carries the Shakti. The divine masculine would be Shiva. Ultimately, the divine masculine would be the higher consciousness of what Christ consciousness is, of what God is. And I think that part of it is understanding that it's creation, it's fertility, it's being able to have that life force and that energy to continue to sustain one's soul and sustain the earth and sustain the cosmos. But ultimately, Shakti is that original cosmic force. Shakti is the goddess that created everything. And once someone understands that, they can understand that she permeates all the goddesses, you know, whether it's Mary Magdalene, the goddess Sophia, and then according to the Gnostic Christians, or Mary. But I think it's important to remember to have a balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, to understand that they both serve their purpose. And one can reach a unity in understanding and empathy by valuing the inner goddess, by valuing the inner divine masculine of someone as well. But as long as we reject that divine spark within each of us, we'll continue to cycle through a state of samsara, of suffering, until one realizes that they have that divine spark within them. They'll be delaying their higher consciousness until they understand that they are both the creator and the created. It takes time. Once you understand that one is the creator and the created, everything changes. You're in a state of equilibrium and balance. And I just wanted to share that, you know, that there is something divine and transcendent about valuing the divine feminine and the divine masculine. I had a revelation when I was going to the park to revisit the moment when I lost Mom at the park near the water bridge, and realized that Jesus Christ was always there, walking on water, pulling me out of the water. I didn't know that, you know, that I was in a state of grief until, I visited the park and realized, like, that faith is being able to cross the water. Faith is being able to cross the ocean. Faith is being able to stand with Christ and being able to embody Christ in one's life by taking faith to walk on that water, to be able to face your fears, to be able to be reunited with Christ and cross that water. And it's catharsis, it's healing, because water heals. Water is the healing element. Water is what heals a person. And the world is lacking in being able to in tune with the more water and the spiritual baptism that one experiences is not experienced, I think, fully. It's not understood, and I think it's really about being immersed in water and understand that, it's symbolic of what rebirth is, of what the womb of what the womb is. But I think that we should all value the divine masculine and the divine feminine within people and try to play our part more in our roles as either kings or queens of the divine. And it all sounds kind of grandiose. I realize that. And a lot of people are put off by grandiosity these days, but I don't see it as grandiosity. I see it simply as reality. We diminish our divine spark and limit ourselves, then what happens is illness and disease. But if we embrace our divine source, our divine spark, embrace God consciousness, then we can heal. But until that time, we have to make the decision to integrate and transmute that divine spark within each of us. And it also takes shedding light on some of the darker aspects of who we are, facing some of our fears, facing some of our shadows, and confronting things that ultimately we all have to take that path of bearing our cross and facing darkness. But behind that darkness is resurrection. Behind that darkness is resurrection and light and the kingdom of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven is found within you. And I just wanted to leave that with you. Thank you.